Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The irony is not lost to me in this debate is that every single one of us in this place wants the same thing. And normally when the whole of the House agrees with something, I think something's wrong. But in this case, I have no doubt that the whole House is right. We need to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. What we are debating today and arguing both in this place and out is actually how we get there in the most pragmatic way. This bill is another example of the government trying its best to do what is right at this moment in time, but I fear that the punitive taxes, and I want to ask the Minister on the front bench about those in a minute in my speech, will not help this investment if indeed, as the government says, it is so needed. To rely more on our own gas and oil from the North Sea is a necessity and full of common sense. It's a fact, and everyone has said in this place, that we'll be relying on fossil fuels for many years to come, decades, a point that no one in this place denies. The UK has made some very impressive advances with wind and solar, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and there's a new generation of nuclear on its way. Although I have to say, we have been talking, both the opposition and us, about nuclear investment for years, and so little has been done. Now, wind and solar are excellent ways of generating power. I don't think I've heard anyone here today say yet that when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, it's true. The energy, I'll come to title in a minute, if I may. The Honourable has just joined the debate, I think, so, but I will answer that. I will raise that point, because Portland, in my constituency, has a huge tidal rate. But it's a fact that when the sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow, we don't get the energy we need. So, and we've also cut, as we've heard many times, our emissions by half. We are a world leader and a record to be very proud of. Just touching, if I may, on, as the Honourable Lady has raised the question of tide, yes, of course, if we can explore. We have huge tidal races in this country. Scotland, Portland, as I say, off the coast of South Dorset, in my constituency, if we can harness this and make it work. There are major technical issues, not least with the sand and the salt water, which is very destructive and all these things. But if we can get there, absolutely right. It's a way of generating energy that I'm sure everyone would support. I've heard from several speakers today about the instability of the world we live in. Now that is very true, and I don't have to rehearse why I feel in my lifetime we are facing the most dangerous times in our planet. And if we don't have the power to drive our economy and our homes, I believe would be strategically, quite apart from anything else, insane. We are an island nation, and I don't have to remind anyone in this House how significant energy independence is going to be in the event of a catastrophe. So here we have a bill that will allow companies to apply for a licence to safeguard domestic energy supplies. This, the bill says, will safeguard more than 200,000 jobs, we've heard that already, enhance our security, reduce dependence on higher emission imports from overseas, and significantly prevent families and businesses from being unduly burdened, which to a certain degree they already are through the green taxes that everyone faces. So what's not to like, you may ask? I'm very happy to give it to my honourable friend.
I'm very convinced by the argument that my honourable friend is putting forward. He's missed out on one very useful point, is that the generation of oil and gas in the North Sea will generate tax receipts, which can then be used to subsidise green energy production in other parts of the British economy. Do you not agree?
Richard Drax. This has been raised several times, I said to my honourable friend, and I totally agree, yes. The tax receipts from this investment from oil and gas are going to play a very large part, do play a huge part in our economy. I agree. Now, what I'd like to specifically ask the Minister, if I can just grab his ear for 1 second, because I maybe got this wrong, but as I understand it, these companies will face a corporation tax of 50% and a windfall levy of 35%. I'd be very grateful if, when he sums up at the end of all this, whether that's true. Now, I'm not an expert in industry, but I would think that chief executives and board members and shareholders will wince if, having been told, look, we're going to do all this, but we're going to pay all this punitive taxation, they might say, well, why on earth should we do this in the first place? I'd be delighted to give way.
Not to step on the Minister's toes, but my understanding is even before the Energy Profits Levy, which is an additional 35%, as he pointed out, the oil and gas sector was already the highest tax sector in the country at 40%. So it's 40% plus 35%, 75%, I believe, is the... But I stand to be corrected by the Minister if I'm wrong.
Well, I hope you and I, my honourable friend and I, can be corrected by the Minister, because, as the House has just heard, the tax rates are very punitive. Now, if we're going to do this for all the reasons, common sense reasons, that the Minister and the Government says we should, why on earth are we raising taxes to such a point that it's going to disencourage, disincentivise all those who need to spend hundreds of millions of pounds or more to get this oil and gas out of the ground? Can I just touch also briefly on this very powerful Climate Change Committee, which operates out of this place? We hear about it. It's mentioned occasionally. It's pretty unaccountable, frankly, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Very influential, and it's set now our fourth carbon budget, which can be legally challenged once in place. I just wonder whether the Government fears it could find itself in the courts as they rightfully plough on with this bill that many who disagree with it object to. It's shocked me to the core, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that it's taken a war in Europe for the West to prioritise both energy and food security. As I said, we're here now talking about nuclear power. I mean, how many decades have we been talking about this? And what's happened? Very, very little. It's going to be a vital component to keep the lights on and keep this country safe. Globalisation has softened our resolve to stand alone, if need be, when hard times hit, in whatever shape they come. This bill has a lot going for it, not least a most welcome return to our old and absent friend, common sense. Can I urge the Government to find pragmatic solutions to the transition to net zero and allow the private sector to do what it does best, provide jobs and prosperity, not least, as we've heard, in Scotland. The search for alternatives to fossil fuels will continue, and as we've heard, the tax receipts will be used to invest in green energy. And I have no doubt at all, that an affordable, reliable and plentiful solution will be found. The human race has a remarkable ability to survive. But in the meantime, can the Government continue to work in the real world, keep the lights on, the economy running and the country safe strategically?
Matt Weston.